Hello. As we go into a new week, I would like to start with a sage smudge so that you move into this week with as a clean vessel, a clear, hollow bone, and I would just like to help you cleanse your mind and your senses. First thing this morning or before you're going to bed if you're watching this at night. So I'll light the sage. There's a beautiful little story about this sage, and I'll share that with you after I light this. This is California white sage, and it's very beautiful. So I'll just waft it toward you, and you close your eyes and feel blessed. And as I waft this smoke toward you, bless your mind. Pull the smoke toward you and over your head. Bless your mind to think good thoughts, your eyes to see the good in others, your ears to hear good things and not gossip, and then smudge your heart to be open to love, to be open to the beauty in this world. May anything that you don't need moving into this week be cleansed with this sage smudge. You are a unique expression of divine creation, powerful creation. You are creator. And blessings. Blessings on you, your family, your pets and houseplants if you have any, and your home. Blessings. Blessings. May you be well and may you be happy. Hi, kinanskomaten. This morning, I woke up early, and before I went into my meditation, I sit in front of a big bay window and looked out at the 3 feet of snow that we have, and the temperature was like -30, but the sun was just coming over the houses across the street, and the rays of light were catching the snow crystals, and they were absolutely shimmering like diamonds. And I just felt abundant and just like I was sitting within a magical kingdom. And I like to get into that emotion as much as possible. So in my mind, I was sitting in a field of diamonds. And then something was up high in the tree and was knocking snow off of the top branches so that it was sifting down and again catching the light. So then it was like I was in a shower of diamonds that were little prisms that were turning the light into red and orange and purple colors. It was, again, very beautiful and uplifting. My takeaway from that was to see the beauty, spot the miracles that are all over in this world if we will just have eyes to see them. I looked up where the snow was being knocked off of the tree, and there in the top branches was what we call a flicker. So that's a little tiny version of a woodpecker. And it's a black and white bird that has a little red tuft of feathers on its head, and it's very noticeable because of that red color. I'll see if I can find a picture and include it in this video. And this flicker, being a woodpecker, was pecking the tree as hard as it could with its beak. And I know that woodpeckers make holes, and often they can hear worms and they're pecking into the tree to, or insects to reveal the insects. But I don't know what this flicker was doing, because there were no worms, and this tree trunk that he was pecking into with his hard little beak was probably the hardest. It was as hard as those diamonds that were flickering in the snow in my imagination. And my takeaway from that was to be hard headed about manifesting, to never give up. That little bird would tap like crazy for about 10 seconds, not make any headway, but then he'd go again to another part of the tree and tap for all he was worth, as though his life depended on it, and it probably did. That was his nature. And I think that he was never going to give up. And I am never going to give up bringing those things that I want from the spirit world into this physical world. I hope that you will join me in being delusional and hard-headed, and never letting the things that the physical world lobs at you to make you doubt, never let those get the best of you. Continue to be hard-headed. Keep tapping. Keep working the program and using your beautiful imagination and your emotions to bring that which you want into this world, whether it be money, a special person, health, success. All can be yours if you will stay the course and continue to tap the beautiful well of abundance in this world. Speaking of emotion, which is, of course, how you need to align your emotion to be highly vibrated and match that high vibrational thing that you want to bring into the world. And I have a little story about the power of imagination, and I think you'll get a kick out of it. It was told to me by my friend Francis, and there was a relative of his that was talked about in a story that was passed down through the generations. And it was about a young man named Matthew, a young Indigenous man named Matthew, who lived with some priests that he served, and helped make the meals, prepare the meals, and kept the rectory clean and the church clean. And for that, in exchange, he was taken care of and fed and given a place to sleep. At the meal one Saturday night, after everybody had eaten and the priests were sitting at the table still, they were still talking, and they were just enjoying a glass of wine. All of a sudden, the oldest priest in the order fell forward, and his head knocked the table. Upon investigation, the priests realized that the old priest, had died. He was cold dead, and they had to try to figure out what to do with him, because the next day, being Sunday, was not only a holiday, but it was also a feast. And there was no way that they were going to be able to dig a grave and put the old priest in his coffin into the ground. So they decided that they would put the old priest into a coffin, and they would nail it shut and leave it down in the basement. Now, besides Matthew, there were two hired hands that also did odd jobs around the church, and they were the ones that got the coffin ready and put the priest into the coffin and took him downstairs. That was all well and good, and the next morning, the senior priest was checking the room of the old man who was now deceased, and he was actually looking for money. The old priest had been talking about using his savings to go on a tour, on a trip, and the senior priest was thinking that now, since the old man was dead, that money might come in handy for that Sunday's festivities because the wine had ran out and they needed to buy more wine. Now, the workers were gone, though, and everybody in the room that were priests, the priests, decided to pick Matthew to be the one to go down into the basement and check the pockets of the old priest. They had hastily put him in the coffin, and the senior priest thought that all of the money was still in the pocket of the old priest's coat. Now, Matthew was deathly afraid of ghosts. He had been told stories by an old uncle of his, and it was no secret that he was very afraid of ghosts. But since the workers were gone, it fell to him to go and pry out the nails of the coffin and open the lid and feel into the priest's pocket and get any coins and paper money that might be in the pocket. With much protesting, he finally did go down the dark corridor. He had a candle and made his way into the basement, and he saw the coffin, and he was shuddering, he was shaking, and it was all he could do to use the tool that he had to pry open each nail in the coffin and get the lid open enough that he could reach into the old dead priest's pocket and see if there was money in there. And sure enough, he could feel dollar bills and coins. So he took them out and put them in his own pocket and then went about nailing the nails or pounding the nails back into the coffin. Finally, it was all done, and he turned to go and screamed. The ghost of the priest was pulling him back and wouldn't let him go. And he, I guess, dropped dead. He was so afraid that the old priest, his ghost, was pulling him back. Actually, back. In the Matthew's mind, it was thought back through the gates of hell. When the priests waiting upstairs noticed that Matthew had been gone a long time, they rallied themselves and got their own candles and went down. And they found Matthew as dead as the old priest. But upon examining the situation, they found that Matthew had nailed his own coat inside the coffin. And it was just the fact that he had nailed his clothing to the coffin and not the old ghosts of the priest who had died pulling him back that actually caused his death. It's an example of how huge emotion can affect our bodies to the degree of all of our systems shutting down and just snuffing out our life. And just as sad and negative as this story is, I want to bring up the mood now and say, as negative as that is, you can also be positive about your body and your health and live to be as old as you want to be and vigorous and active and healthy. Jerry France, my pottery teacher, was dealing with stomach cancer about 20 years ago. She laid in bed every night imagining that there were little men with brooms who were sweeping up the cancerous cells, just like you would sweep dirt up in a pile on the floor, on the kitchen floor. And every night for half a year, she imagined these little men just cleaning out the cancer, cleaning it out, and then flushing it out of her system, banishing it out of her system. And Jerry France beat stomach cancer. After about 8 months on a routine checkup with the doctor and some testing, she was absolutely cleared of stomach cancer. So to think as positively as that, if you are facing a challenge or have some negativity around you that you can't seem to beat, tomorrow I'm going to show you a simple but effective ceremony to rid yourself of disease and negativity and any thoughts that might be in the way of you living your best life. Mio Pamatsuin, our elders would say, or my elders would say. So I ask you to join me for that ceremony tomorrow. We'll be using fire and a tiny little bit of wood, and I'll demonstrate it, and then you can go on and do it yourself. And pump up your emotions. Get away from, I guess, sort of being on autopilot. Some of us are dealing with so many challenges. It's like we're on autopilot, and Monday comes around, for example, and after a weekend of no work, that day just seems to be a very kind of down day for a lot of people. But for me, it's the best day of the week because I get to start with a fresh week and basically do another video for you after taking Sunday off. So join me tomorrow for the release ceremony using fire and wood, and I guarantee you it'll help you think healthily and positively. Kinan Skomatin, hi, thanks for listening. We'll see you tomorrow.